We'll Leach, we're live.
We're
Hello.
live. We're live.
Hello, world. We're live. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. He's our favorite scientist. He's blinded us with science from his book, With the New Look, Marketing the Mind States. Will, you're supposed to be on vacation, brother. You threw me a curveball. What's up?
I did. I threw you a curveball. So I was supposed to be on vacation this week, and you'll appreciate this story, Steve. So we usually take my family to go see my mom in Tennessee, but then we had some issues where my wife couldn't join me. But listen, Steve, I'm the youngest of four. I'm the baby. I'm going to bring the grandkid with me. I mean, I'm thinking like I get some alone time with my mom. I bring the grandkid. And when I told her that my wife wasn't going to join us, you just saw her whole being just was deflated. She was like, oh. And she said, well, can you guys come in the fall? And I was thinking my whole time, like, you get 100% time with your youngest. And she was not having it. So we immediately switched gears, try to figure out some things. So it is actually, I'm going next week. So I'm leaving on Saturday to drive to Tennessee. But I found out where I fit in the order of things in my family. And I am not the most important thing to my mom. My wife is, in fact, the most important thing. But it is good. So we're all going to go as a family next week.
Well, hopefully, maybe I can help you get over it during, this hour that we spend together. We can process that. But
yeah, we can process how I feel about that.
It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. He's the man. He's a scientist without a trench coat or whatever they call it. Today, we're talking about building psychological attachment to your brand. What do they call that? They call that little white coat that scientists always wear. Why don't you wear that?
What would we call that thing? Yeah. I don't know. I like it though.
Yeah, but you don't wear one unless maybe you do around the house when no one's. I don't know.
I don't. I am a man of the people, Steve. I'm a man of the people.
A man of the people. All right, let me turn this music off if I can figure it out. There we go. It's off. So, Will, what's the story behind today's topic?
I'm not sure if you've found this out or not. I don't know if you heard, but we have this little thing called inflation happening. Have you heard anything about this, Steve? I know you make so much money. You probably don't know exactly what you spend money on these days, but have you heard of this topic?
Every time I turn around, there's a bunch of fear porn out there. It's just, how can you not, right? I go to the store. I believe it.
Okay. Oh yeah, the gas is hitting us pretty hard. I'm about to take a cross country trip, and that gas is going to be pretty expensive. The hotel room is going to be pretty expensive. The food is kicking our butt. We take the family out to Whataburger, which is a big deal in Texas, and I'm paying $30 for 3 hamburger meals nowadays. Mm-hmm. About $30 when you add in a shake. So yep, mm-hmm. It is a round. So what I want to talk about today is, how do you kind of defend against inflation and a lot of other things that are happening in the world today? It's about building a strong brand. So most people go to this idea of loyalty. Well, we got to build loyalty. I'm going to tell you today, loyalty is not going to be your friend in this situation. And I don't think building loyalty is going to be your friend ever again. I believe what we have to do is build attachment. And we're going to talk about how do you build attachment and why that's important and how do you do it in this week's session.
Attachment. Yeah. Speaking of attachment, I want to tell all the folks that are listening in all the time, and we're attached to you. We appreciate you. We love those comments, your likes, your suggestions. So just want to tell you that we're attached to you, and we're working hard to build a psychological attachment to Will's brand. So you say build attachment, not loyalty, but I'm going to say that sounds a little bit, I can't say the word manipulative.
Oh, actually, I think it's almost the opposite. I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. I'm going to bring down those concerns. So, like I said, you may be actually out there thinking, well, why? Like, why? Well, let me tell you why what's happening. And we talked about this actually a couple of years ago when COVID first happened, and we saw a massive amount of brand switching, and it's been across all industries, across all categories. People have had, in effect, needed to many times change brands. And that became because of supply outages. So if your favorite brand's not on shelf, are you willing to not get diapers? I doubt it. I think you're going to go find an alternative brand. That's been the case. Inflation, because now our favorite brands can sometimes be too expensive. So inflation creates, either you're going to leave because it's higher prices. So you're going to have to find an alternative brand. Or a lot of our favorite brands, if you haven't heard about this, are actually using cheaper ingredients and materials, which means the quality of our favorite brands are going down. It's a way of keeping their prices down. So even though the price is lower, you're getting an inferior product, fewer paper towels. You're getting the paper, the things that you're used to getting, they're breaking down. Like, in fact, if you haven't noticed in the news, new car dissatisfaction is up through the roof because what manufacturers have had to do is use cheaper goods to make cars. They're not getting their normal microchips in. They're not getting the normal supplies in. So they're using cheaper car parts, which means repairs are going up through the roof, right? Or, just in general, technology makes it so much easier for anyone to find an alternative nowadays. It's like I can pick up my phone and I can type in alternatives to the Mindstate Marketing Hour. You won't find one alternative to the Mindstate Marketing Hour, by the way, so don't do it. But you could hypothetically find alternatives to anything because we have these things called search engines. So loyalty is being suppressed quite a bit because of all these factors. So your next question would be, okay, let's talk about building attachment and not loyalty. Let me define what I mean by this. And I think there is a difference. Loyalty, building brand loyalty is really about connecting your brand to internal standards, to principles of your customers, or to the values of your customers. So the idea has always been that if my brand is associated with something that some of my customers value, maybe that means an environmental movement, or it could mean just this cause of small businesses. If you align your brand with somebody's core values, you can build loyalty. So many, many companies do a ton of research to identify what do our customers value? What are their values, their beliefs? Here's the issue with that. The issue with that is, and we've talked about this in my book, is that our attitudes, our wants, our desires, our values, and our beliefs change quite a bit. They change quite a bit. You have values. I don't disagree with that. But did you know that your values shift quite a bit? I can make it really easy for you right now. I can tell you like this. If you've ever been at the grocery store and you've been sitting in front of the snack aisle, you have probably two competing values. Many people have these competing values. They want to eat healthy, but they also want yummy, cheesy snacks. And we found, even when we did deep psychological analyses and we created these segmentations back when I was at PepsiCo, is that we find that a lot of people who value health, they still eat those big bag of Doritos, Steve, and those Dorito consumers, those Ruffle consumers, they actually eat baked Lay's quite a bit too. Why? It's because their values are in conflict. And so what do? You don't get rid of one value. You don't hold true to only one value or one belief. You change them all the time. So if you're going to make your brand and associate it strongly with a value, you better be prepared that those values go out the door when things like prices come into account. So I could believe in your cause, and I love giving, I love making sure that some percentage of my purchase goes to a great cause. But right now, when I'm paying double what I used to pay, I'm not as interested in that cause. It's true. It's not because I don't think that cause is important. I just value my own family's financial well-being. So values fluctuate quite a bit with these other variables. That's why you want to build attachment. And attachment is slightly different. Attachment is about connecting brands with people so that you are like a friend. It's like a relationship that I have with you. When I married my wife, it wasn't just I married her just because of her values. I married her because I connected with her as a human being. And that's all about behavioral sciences. So when you can connect your brand with what makes somebody human, your customers human, that creates a brand advocacy and attachment that it's less susceptible to being switched out.
When I was thinking about your values change, so, I try to eat healthy, but sometimes I just like a bag of Ruffles.
Yeah.
Okay. But you know how much a bag of Ruffles costs now? They're like $6.
Yeah.
And when I walked by there's this off-brand, you can get four bags of chips for $5.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a no-brainer. They're crunchy. They're salty.
Yeah.
They're
And
kind of
imagine
ruffly. Yeah.
how long Ruffles, and I can tell you Ruffles does a lot. I used to, in fact, run Ruffles research. And we do a lot of research on you because we presume that we're trying to build this incredible loyalty so that when you walk by that aisle, you're going to buy Ruffles. But no longer is that value, that love of that great crunch, that taste, the crazy flavors that Ruffles can give you. It's not as important as, like you said, being able to get out of the supermarket for under $100. And that's really difficult these days. It just is.
It is. It's totally difficult. The other thing is, you think about your values change. Your liver changes. It's like
I haven't heard this.
it.
What's that about?
It's like well, I don't know if it's 6 months or every 6 months your liver is regenerated.
Uh-huh.
It's like so. Think about your body is changing all the time. Why wouldn't your values change,
Why
right?
why in your mind? Right. Makes total sense, man. I like that.
Your liver changes. Your values change. It's interesting. It's true. So this attachment thought. The other day I was on this call and everyone was kind of arguing about brand. What does brand mean? What's the difference between brand and marketing?
I see a lot of this going around on social media these days. Yeah.
And I think for me, the defining aspect of how do you explain what is brand? Brand is how people they have an identity. They see themselves in a particular way. So when you're playing tennis,
Mhm.
okay. So you have to wear tennis shorts. You have to wear tennis shoes and a shirt. Somewhere along the line, you decided I'm going to wear these tennis shoes because somehow they complement or are congruent with you the way you see yourself.
Adidas.
Yeah.
And I never played tennis before, but I'm finding that I'm going towards Adidas shoes, Adidas shirts, Adidas socks. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you.
So something in that brand
Yep.
is congruent with the way that you see yourself, your self-identity. And so you don't mind it being a compliment and it doesn't mess with how you see yourself or how you want to see yourself.
That's right. Congruency, right? And when those things are incongruent, you find this thing, there's a tension psychologically when you do things that don't fit with how you see yourself in the world or how you aspire to see yourself in the world too. So absolutely, that's why sometimes kids will turn their shirts inside out sometimes because that's at the hardest core. Like in school, where there's so much social pressure to personify your idealized self, kids will sometimes even turn their shirts inside out if they have to hide a logo that they don't want to be perceived as being associated with. That's at most extreme, but it happens.
So true. So when you think about how people's values are changing, how do you stay congruent with their self-identity of your avatar?
Well, the first thing you got to do, I was going to say in that first part here, is know your audience and what motivates them. We talk about this in Marketing to Mind States. It's so critical that you understand the core motivation that your customer has as it relates to whatever category you're in. And so we talk about these 9 motivations in the book. These are universal to all different people globally. And these motivations propel us to reach our aspirational goals. So these motivations we've talked about before, things like achievement, our desire for success, autonomy, our desire for freedom, belonging, our desire for acceptance. So there's these 9 total. You would know one of them, security, which is kind of very Maslow with talking about security and safety needs. So these 9 core motivations. You must understand which one or two of those most kind of create that emotional desire that people have in your category to take an action. Because if you build your brand or you try to create attachment on something else in that, you may be interesting, but you're not going to build the attachment. So you must know your audience and what motivates them. You can do research you should do research to know this for sure, because you're going to build your entire brand identity around this motivation. I'm going to show you how to do that in the next part.
All right. So we're talking about create a unique brand personality that people can connect with. Easier said.
It is. It takes a long time, but you better put science behind it. You and I talk about this idea of putting science behind your brand personality. Here's how the majority of people, especially small business owners, build their brand persona or brand personality. They build it upon themselves, their own personal personality, which actually is not bad. I would make the case that if you can build a brand because you are unique and you build around yourself, you don't have to be kind of fake, right? So if you're a small business, I totally get why you want to build your brand personality around yourself. I'm suggesting, though, that you look at your personality as it relates to that core motivation you believe your customer has. So I'm going to make this example up. Let's say your core customer is influenced by competence in your industry. So that means they desire to be higher, have better skills, better be more prepared. So it's kind of somebody who wants to learn. But if your brand personality is more like a jester, somebody who's kind of funny and you're trivial, that would be incongruent with how they see themselves. This person sees themselves as more smart, they want to be more learned, and if you come across as being too funny and not really educating somebody, you're never going to build that attachment. You could be useful to them, you could be entertaining to them, but you won't build that attachment. So what you can do to build your brand personality, let's say if you're like, hey, Will, I know that my customer is motivated by one of your 9 motivations. Now, what I would tell you is you can build a personality around that motivation. Now, there's been a lot of work done in brand archetypes. There's a really famous book. I think you may have taught me or told me about this book, Steve. I'm not positive about this, but it's called The Hero and the Outlaw, and this idea of building brands around archetypes. It's been around for a while, right? So a lot of this book has been built upon Carl Jung, really famous psychologist who came up with these archetypes. It depends on which book you're talking about. There could be 9, or actually there could be like 16, there could be 20 or whatever. But I use this one that I got from The Hero and the Outlaw. So for those of you can see it, I have like a little thing here but there's other ones you can use, but you can learn it from there. And what I did was I said, okay, which of these archetypes, this is based upon deep psychological work since the 20s, I believe, maybe even before that basically show you how to connect your brand to a persona that you're trying to attach to. So for instance, there's this one called we just talked about competence. There's one called mastery. So somebody who desires mastery in my world is called competence. That's somebody who desires, who wants to be smarter, more skilled in activity. So when I think brands that deliver on that, I think HubSpot, I think Thinkific. What's that one on social media? You may have seen, Steve, where they give you all these different tapes. And apparently you can buy a subscription. You can learn from the masters. I see it on Facebook all the time. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's all these people that you can learn from, right? So in the kind of archetype system, there's this archetype called the hero that can sometimes be associated with mastery. So think of like an astronaut or whatever. The astronaut is really smart. They know astrophysics. They can become the hero. So you can align yourself as being, okay, my brand personality is about the hero. Or another one could be, we have a motivation called nurturance, which is about loving and caring for somebody. You're driven for that. Well, that from an archetype perspective could be called the lover. There's a lover archetype, which desires intimacy. So in that case, you can make your brand more aligned with the lover. So my point is that the work has been done for you. I mean, I kind of did it on a sheet of paper. I've been using this for a couple of years now. When brands are asking me, hey, Will, you told me that my category is motivated by, whether it's esteem or it's autonomy or one of my core motivations, then how do I build my brand around it? Well, I give them examples. So if you want to build esteem, I think of Gucci, I think of Prada. If you want to build your brand around freedom and autonomy, then I think of REI. So you can build your brand so when you associate, and like I would tell you with REI, the sports, the outdoor sporting gear company, when you think of REI, you think of exploration, you think of freedom and discovery. That aligns very nicely with the core motivation for my book, which is around autonomy. So if you build your core brand personality around one of these motivations and tap it into one of these archetypes, you can now start building brand personality. And there's tons of information in these books, like I said, The Hero and the Outlaw, and there's a bunch of other books like that, to know how your tone should change, your personality should change, the way you write, the visuals you use should all change to align nicely with that motivation.
That's excellent. If you think about the brands that you enjoy and you can just deconstruct it, why does that brand appeal to you? Why does that sports team, why does that golfer, why did these folks that that you really like, this can help you start to do that exercise with the folks that you want to appeal to.
Absolutely. And it's not that hard. You don't have to do a ton of, investigative work. Like in fact, if you want to learn this, schedule a call with me. We'll talk about how to do that. I can literally show you. If we have a quick conversation, I can literally show you, here is probably what your motivation is, which therefore this is probably your archetype. Now start talking and building a brand around that archetype, and that's going to get you 10 years worth of research in a 30-minute call.
Wow. Wow. This stuff's been going on for so long, when you talk about from the 20s and stuff, a lot of that research was done probably in ways that nowadays they couldn't reproduce that type of study.
No, they could not. That's right. Let's talk about what they did in the 40s. Yeah, no, they could not. So let's just take what we can from that. Let's never do those things again. But you're right. Yeah. But there's still truth in it. There's still some truth in all that stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. So be transparent and authentic in all your communications.
Yeah, that's almost like, it's almost like a cliche, but you got to think of it in this way. If you're going to build attachment, think about, when you want to attach yourself to your mate or to somebody you really, really like, you want to create this bond and this attachment, you have to, like in any strong relationship that's going to be, forever, is you want to be transparent. You want your significant other, whoever that is, to know you, and to know you, how you feel, how you think, etc. So you have to be transparent. You can't hide things from your partner and expect that you're going to have a really strong relationship that's going to last forever. And being authentic. If you're never true to yourself, or you're not true to that personality, and you do things that are outside of what you should be doing, you're never going to build that strong attachment. Because when you are caught, you are always going to get caught. Always, always, always. Or even if you're not caught exactly not being authentic, there'll be this feeling like something's a little bit off with the way that she wrote this email. Something's a little bit off with the way that they price their product. That doesn't feel who I thought this person was, who I thought this brand was. That feeling will cause them to look other places, just like in any relationship. So be transparent. If you make a mistake, it's okay. Own up to it. You make mistakes in any relationship. If you own up to it, you are forgiven in most cases. Being authentic is the same way. You got to be authentic. You got to be transparent in your communications, just like any other relationship.
That's so true. The other day, we had this issue where we migrated a website, but there were some things that weren't functioning correctly. Look, the client discovered them before we did, right? And then they were talking to the project manager, and the project manager was like, the comment from my client was, she was as surprised as I was to find those. We expected her to know about them, right? But I was thinking that that's how honest and transparent my project manager is to not cover it up, just to say the truth right there. I think it made them feel that we're human, right? And I think at first it was like upsetting that why didn't you see these and fix them, right? But then I think the more that the more you think about some of the conversation, I think it was just obvious we're not trying to cover up. That is obviously apparent. So it was a win in the long run.
Yeah, one thing I do a lot with our capability sessions. So people call to ask about what do we do, and a temptation that many people have will be, well, tell me what, when you're asked that question, well, tell me what types of projects you're working on. And then you're like, oh, I can do all that. Here's what we always do. We will always in our meetings very quickly say, here's what we're good at. Here's the things that we're not good at. Because I want to be transparent. Because if you have me working in the government sector, you will very quickly find out that I do not understand how to work with the government. I just don't. So if you're hiring me to help you through and navigate that situation, I want you to know very early on that I'm not an expert in that. And it does pay off. So I always remember about my first product innovation project with my company. And I was working with a very, very large manufacturer. And they came to me because they read the book and they said, we want you to help us design a product. Now, my work is usually in communications, in marketing strategy, brand building. And so I said, I don't think I'm very good at that. I was very honest because I didn't think I could really do what they wanted. And they go, we beg to differ. We think you can. And so I said again on the call, actually, I don't think I'm the right person for you. I think there's actually some other people that could do it better. They go, thankfully, they said, we disagree. If we handle the innovation side of things and you handle the behavioral science side of it, together we'll get there. But because I was so open, we did get there and I learned so much. But they actually had to push back on me because I was trying to be so transparent, saying I'm not good at this. And because of that year, Steve, I think we did about $400,000 worth of projects with this company. And I think a part of that was because I was open enough to saying, I don't think this is the right project for us. Thankfully, they pushed me in the right direction. We got to a good place. It pays off when you are authentic and transparent. If you're not good at something, tell people. They may actually still want to work with you. And if they don't work with you on that project, I am telling you, they call you again because of how open you were to them and how honest you were.
Yeah, the other side of that is, yeah, we can do that. And then, you're thinking in your head, we'll figure it out. Later, you're trying to make them happy. But what will happen is you won't make them happy because that's your beta test on that thing. And it'll come off the rails and bite you. So in the long term, maybe you got a project immediately, but later,
I'm with you. That whole fake it till you make it. There is something to it because I think when you're first starting out, you can stretch yourself a little outside of your comfort zone. I think that's okay. But if you've never done product innovation, then for me to say that, yes, I can help you build out this new unit, that's not right. It's just not. You're never going to do a great job. And these are multi-million dollar decisions that companies make where people's salaries and lives and careers are at stake. So it's not worth it. But if you have to stretch a little bit, that fake it till you make it, just so that you can get yourself into an area that you feel uncomfortable, it's probably okay to do that.
Yep. Showcase customer success stories.
Yep. Guys, it's, I think sometimes we do is we build these brands, and we put everything into them, and we're transparent and we're open and we connect. We try so hard to connect with people, yet we can't grow our businesses, right? Why is that? You can build a brand, but you have to promote your brand. One of the best ways to promote your brand, to build attachment, is showing how you connect with other customers and how you have, because of that connection, because of your brand, because of your services, you have helped other people who are similar to the person who's looking at your webpage, who's reading that case study. They're similar to you and they want that same outcome. So you should, when you're building brands, showcase customer success stories. It's not just to show how great you are. Hey, we lifted, response rates by 20%. Really, what you're trying to do is establish that your customer who's reading this case study can see themselves in that story. So rather than just talking about our customers on the average take 20% or whatever, if you tell a story about how this customer is in a lot of pain, you reached out to them, or there was a connection, you did some great work, and then there was a great outcome, they're kind of in heaven now. That story people can relate to, and they want to become a part of their own story. So just using narrative psychology, which we're going to talk about in our next Mindstate Marketing Hour, it's a great way to build attachment. People attach themselves to stories, not to data, not to metrics. So use case studies, use customer success stories, talk about the people at the individual level. I helped Carl. Those types of stories help build that attachment, even if they're not talking directly to you.
Excellent. Excellent, Will. I think one of the things that you see pushback on what you're promoting is that concern about, are you trying to trick me? But when your message here is, look, I'm wanting to connect with you because I understand you. And if your customer, your prospects, if they feel that you really do understand them, then they feel safe. And all you're saying is, let's communicate in a better way. That point.
And let's be honest, right? If you have a product or service that does not deliver, that is manipulation. That is. If I went into that project where I was going to help build out these units and I said I could do it, and I used all these great tactics and I couldn't do it, that's manipulation. That's not what we're saying. If you don't have a good product or service, you shouldn't be doing it. But if you do have a good product or service that can help better people's lives, which is the majority of people out there actually do have, but services help better people's lives, why wouldn't you make your marketing to create a connection, or build your marketing so that it creates a connection so you can help people better help people better their lives? Why wouldn't you do that? It makes total sense to do that.
That's a great point. That is manipulation, telling them you can do something when you can't. Guess what time it is?
It's dance time.
Dance time.
Questions with Will. I like how you got that as the banner now, Steve. I like that. Questions with Will.
Yeah. So this is a point of the show where we like to watch Will dance. And it's not, you don't want to see him really dance.
Like Elaine and Bennis. You don't want to see
that. Yeah, that's something you can't unsee. when we say watch and we'll dance, we're like throwing him questions and seeing what answers he comes up with. So we have a little music in the background. Can you hear that music?
I don't hear it anymore. I think you turned it down too low.
There we go.
There we go.
All right. Trying to produce the show. Number one, Will, do you find that psychological theories are effective in business-to-business settings?
Oh, I get this question a lot from my students, from clients all the time. Yes, 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 yes. Why? It's because we are all individuals. We're all human beings. No matter who you're talking to, whether it's a direct to consumer, somebody's going to buy your product off our website, or another business, there's still a human on the other side of that connection. Now, I'm the first to admit that B2B settings are more difficult because maybe the person on the other line that you're talking to doesn't have the full authority to buy from you. But that's okay. Your job is then to create an advocate, maybe by creating some psychological attachment, maybe, Steve. I'm not sure if that would work or not. But if they become your advocate, then they will help promote you inside the organization. So they do work. 40% of my business is from B2B. So I work with B2B all the time. So yes, these psychological theories actually do work in the B2B settings. We just don't have a lot of case studies because more often than not, people talk about B2C, business to consumer, but it absolutely works.
Yeah, I get that. Folks, well, we're in a bid process. All our jobs are bid. So they just pick the lowest price. And in my head, I'm thinking, bullshit.
It is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not true. Very, very rarely. Even in government contracts, we're supposed to be these massively all about money. If you know the government, that's not nearly as important as relationships and stuff like that. So it's not true.
Mm-hmm. All right. Number two, what academic programs are around to teach behavioral science marketing? Great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Behavioral science marketing. So behavioral science marketing is relatively new. You may have heard of this term neuromarketing, which is a subsegment of behavioral science marketing. So there are a few programs that are doing neuromarketing, not a ton in behavioral science marketing. The ones that I would talk about, let's say neuromarketing. I'll explain the difference between neuromarketing and behavioral science marketing. Neuromarketing is, think about it as the very first 1/20th of a second when somebody sees your marketing. Is there an avoidance response? Is there not an avoidance response? And what's happening at almost a biological, a neurological level. You got to nail that before psychology marketing or behavioral science marketing will work. Anything outside of that neuromarketing is what we call behavioral science marketing. It's understanding psychology so that when somebody reads, you're creating that emotional desire to keep reading, to buy the product. Neuromarketing, I would say the best course that I've seen is from Dr. Thomas Ramsay. And he has a course on Coursera called Introduction to Neuromarketing. In fact, go to that. It's a really cheap course, maybe for free. And you can get neuromarketing course and you're certified. On the behavioral science marketing course, the only one that I know of right now is the one that I teach at, which is the Applied Behavioral Economics program at Texas A&M University. It's in the Human Behavior Lab. So look up Human Behavioral Lab, Texas A&M University. I run a marketing course called Behavioral Marketing, and it's an 8-week course when you work with me to talk through, your business, and you actually learn how to apply marketing mindsets to that. So those are the two programs that I know of, but that's going to change in the next 5 years. You'll see more and more programs coming.
That neural marketing. One time I worked for this company, and so they were a shred company.
A what company?
A shredding company. They
shred.
Okay, yeah. They shred documents, so prevent identity theft. And so, like most companies in the beginning, they just don't take the marketing side seriously, the logo. So they had a logo, but then they had this icon. Okay. And it turns out that whoever they hired to do that icon had just picked this high school football team's logo of a panther ripping through a banner or something, just with the claws and everything. But they had, the colors were red and black. And I was noticing that when I would put my card down in front of people, that they would have this, for the first half second, they're making this face and they're trying to discern what's going on in that logo. And the more I looked at it, if you looked at it from a distance on the side of their trucks and stuff, it looked like someone burning in a fire because of the claws.
Yeah.
And then red and the black. And it's like, I had arguments with them. Immediately, I changed that card to where it was white. Didn't have that. Just had the, the acronym on there. It was interesting that reaction. That was their baby. They refused to listen to that. But it's like, I really noticed people's face change when they were trying to figure out what in the world is going on that card.
I love that neuromarketing. I got an example too. I worked at a utility company, Florida Power and Light, down in South Florida. When I first, just out of grad school, when I went there, they had a series of commercials where they're trying to teach people to not prune their own trees, because sometimes you hit a power line, you die. So what they did was, their campaign was putting, that yellow caution or that tape when somebody dies, and they were using that tape to do outlines of people with poles and cutting utensils or whatever. And I remember going into a meeting and having this brand manager just came in there and go, stop commercials immediately with that, because what they were doing inadvertently, I thought that was like a cool campaign. They were associating their brand with death, because it has this like caution tape, and everywhere that you saw the logo, Florida Power and Light, you saw this caution tape of somebody who's dead. It looked like an outline of a chalk outline of a body. I'll never forget that. But I was like, that's neuromarketing, that initial response that you get, and you better be aware of that first initial response. That impacts people's perceptions of your brand all day long. So I love that story.
Where's Louis II? Where's he been?
Oh, Louis II. Well, guys, okay, so we had a lot of weird things happening in the house. You haven't listened. We actually had to take on a new pet for a couple of weeks. Her name is Maisie, and I'm going to show you, Steve. I'm going to pull up. You see Maisie in the background?
Yeah, she's comfortable there in that chair.
She's there. She is. Sorry, guys. She's very comfortable. So Maisie is a bulldog, an English bulldog that we are house sitting for. And Louis is not really taken really kindly. Louis was the man of the house, and now this woman is dominating Louis. So Louis has not been jumping on in my office, because Maisie behind me sits on that chair almost the entire day and just sleeps. So Louis, now he's doing okay. Now Louis is starting to bring dominance back in the household. He's starting to like kind of bow up a little bit to Maisie, even though Maisie is, much bigger.
Yeah.
Louis is starting to build back his confidence and starting to build back his dominance. But right now, Maisie has displaced Louis to only a few rooms of the house, unfortunately. We miss him, though. We want Louis back on the show.
Yeah, we need some more cameo appearances from Louis on the show.
We do.
So real quick, let us know if we need you to look over our shoulder on project we're working. How do we do that?
Yep. If you want to, talk to me about some of your marketing. In fact, I have a meeting tomorrow with somebody who took this show and said, hey, you know what? I want you to do a session with me for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I will work with you to look at your marketing, to tell you from a neurological and behavioral science background or point of view on how well you're doing. So these things, you can do these sessions. They're called free consults. Go to mindstategroup.com. and you will see these buttons. Click those buttons, book time with me, and you and I will work through your marketing, and I'll teach you a few things about behavioral science marketing.
Really good show. I enjoyed this one very much.
This was a good one.
All right. Did you guys know that this is a podcast? Be sure to subscribe on Stitcher, iHeart, Spotify, Buzzsprout, all the places that the cool kids do. And you can subscribe on YouTube. You don't have to watch it, but you can listen to it. You can watch it. You should see our two shiny ball heads on that.
That's right.
Right? Well, great job today. So
Good.
you're going on a real vacation next week?
I'm going on a real vacation. I'll be in Dollywood probably this time next week. So if you see any puke on the ground in front of these roller coasters, chances are that is your host, Will Leach, in Dollywood, Tennessee. Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I will be there this time next week. So pray for me, buddy.
All right. So if you don't have Will's book, you need to get it so you can read it next week while Will's gone on vacation. It's an excellent book. Changed the way that I look at stuff. Will, appreciate you. You have fun on your show. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe and all those things. Tell your friends and neighbors, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Over and out.
Thanks, everybody.